And now we're going to talk more about one of those issues. Sunday sales is scheduled to a vote here soon in the House, and the bill author, Representative Jennifer Loon, she's a Republican from Eden Prairie, and from the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association, Tony Chesek joins us. Well, Tony, let's start with you, because we just heard in that piece about public demand, that this has turned into kind of a populist issue. Is this people, lawmakers, listening to grassroots activists?
No, I think that's true, Mary. I think that for the 16 years that I've been at the MLBA representing the small independent operators of liquor stores, this is by far in the last 16 years the most momentum I've ever seen at the state capitol, specifically in the House. What we've remained vigilant on is the fact that the MLBA is still continuing to be opposed to Sunday sales. But knowing that in the House that the votes were there, the focus of our association, the members of our association, has been to talk to the folks on both sides of the aisle to at least give them their perspective of what they see is the fallout from Sunday sales for the independent operators going forward. So
yeah, we'll talk about that more. But first of all, let's talk about the momentum. We talked a little bit, you know, it really helps when the Speaker of the House is on your side.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt at all. But what do you think really is the momentum, the reason this looks like it's finally, for the first time ever, going to pass?
Well, I think because it's been part of the conversation in campaigns and amongst constituents when legislators are out talking to who they represent for several years now. And I've been carrying this bill. This is the 4th year, I think, that I've carried this bill. And every year you have more interest in it. You have more people stepping up. And as elections occur and new people getting elected to the House specifically, I think attitudes are changing on it.
So let's talk about the fallout. You mentioned that this has an impact. Remind us what that impact might be for your members.
For the members of our organization, like I mentioned, we truly represent the small independent operators of liquor stores in the state of Minnesota, those bars and restaurants. But this specific issue is the independent operators and the mom and pop shops. And with you know, the 6 days over 7 days has continued to be the argument that we've had for quite some time. And when you've got a small operation and few employees, depending upon how many legal Sundays there are to sell during that year, we see that being an added cost. When you put that into the equation of labor and just for the sheer nature of having your business open, the fallout is that added cost. And the cost, you know, beer goes up every year. The cost of beer and spirits and wine goes up every year from the wholesalers, and the retailers expect that. But when it comes down to the added cost, then putting on the bottom line, this in essence will be an increased cost to the retailer when they do come in to purchase that product.
So what do you say to that? Is there any middle ground that can help his people out and still get this through?
Well, and we did make a couple of changes to the legislation when it was in the Commerce Committee at the suggestion of the MLBA. And one is that the hours that a liquor store could be open on Sunday is limited from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that's one 8-hour shift. And that was really, I think, out of concern for labor costs, maybe one 8-hour shift versus 2 or some overtime. So I am mindful of that. But I think if you look at statistics from other states who've changed their laws, you'll find that by and large, Sunday sales has been very successful. It's been good for liquor retailers. It's been good for a lot of state treasuries as revenues have gone up. So I think for retailers who want to do this and to serve their customers, I think it will be helpful.
Tony, let's talk about the politics, because it sounds like everybody agrees this is a done deal in the House. This is through in the House. The Senate has always been a bigger uphill climb.
Correct.
But isn't the big unknown this year what all these freshmen, I keep hearing that the freshman senators are the wild card on
Sure,
this.
it is. And that's the perspective we've got too. When I testified in the Commerce Committee, it's been a few weeks ago that I testified in the Commerce Committee, the vote was 15-4. And it was a pretty lopsided vote when it came out of the Commerce Committee, and going to the floor and talking to the number of the folks in the House. Are the votes there in the House? We think those. We think the votes are there in the House. However, in the Senate, that is the unknown.
The Speaker, you just heard in this piece, the Speaker
Correct.
said once the momentum starts here in the House,
Sure.
I think we have the votes in the Senate. Does he?
Well, I give the Speaker credit for his stance on that. I think that's appropriate for what the Speaker is wanting from this specific issue. But we continue to talk to, like I say, both sides of the aisle to kind of give them the lay of the land and what we feel will be the fallout from this. And I think that in the Senate, it's not a done deal, as the Speaker hopes it would be, but I don't think it's a done deal in the Senate, so we've still got some folks to talk to about our issues.
Representative Loon, we had a good question on social media, and the question was, who benefits from this? Who benefits from Sunday sales?
Well, I think by and large, consumers. A lot of people are busy, a lot of dual income families where they're doing a lot of their errands on the weekends. We know from retail data that Sunday is the second busiest shopping day of the week. I know I personally buy my groceries in that on Sunday, so I think they're their number one winners. I think for retailers, and I do hear from a lot of liquor store owners as well, who have said, I want this. I know that my customers will patronize my business. I'd like to be open for them, and I think they could be big winners in this as well.
Before we run out of time, Tony, just a few years ago, Senator Paul Gazelka sat in that chair and argued against Sunday sales. He was the chief proponent we could find in the legislature. Is he your best hope at stopping this?
Well, pre-session, I think before session, we had some conversations, and the feeling was he was going to be open to the conversation. And open to the idea of it. And when I recall the last week or so, he came out in opposition of. So
personally, but as a leader, he stayed a little more open. And it's different when you're leading a caucus than voting as an individual, isn't it?
Correct, it is.
What do you think? What's the prognosticating?
I think it's going to pass in the Senate too. There's probably a little more work to do, but I think things are moving in that direction.
When do you think it'll hit the Senate?
Don't know.
But Monday in the House
Monday
is the
in the
plan?
House.
All right. Thanks, you two. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.